Day 15 of our 30 days of PM challenge. I'm Shagun, part of Nonsense, and here we discuss on topics related to product management and what a typical day of a PM looks like, right? So, I am a practicing PM working in a B2B organization, building software products and scaling them further. But here is my attempt for the 30 days of PM challenge to learn new topics related to product management and share my insights and learning along the way through these YouTube live streams and through our YouTube and Twitter feeds, right? So essentially we follow through the content and the course material that is available. I share some insights from real world experience working as a PM and also additional resources on the same topic as well. So this is another one attempt for one of these topics, and today we are looking at problem statements. So I think in the last few days we've looked at a lot of ways of how essentially you start building a product feature, right? Or if you have an idea, how do you start and take the first step to build or get an MVP out, right? So a lot of the times it starts with a problem, and the problem, uh, if the problem is already, I mean, if something is a problem already to you as a user and you, I mean, come across it very often, so I mean, solving for your own problems to begin with is the best way to build products. So if you have a problem that you feel like, and you have, find out solutions. If there are no solutions, find out if there are, and if there is something similar in the market that can do it, and if there is none, try to build something yourselves, right? Try to validate and build a solution for your own specific problem. And once you build the solution and get to the solution phase, you come across other people as well, who have a similar problem statement as yours, right? So that is typically the journey recommended when, for example, a new startup starts, or a new product line or a new product feature is launched. You will try to look at and solve for your own problems as a user, and then see if the same problem is also reflected and also reported by other users within the community and within the industry, right? So this is one way to look at problem statements and identify these problem statements, right? So now we've figured out how do you identify these problem statements. Begin with something that you already feel like is a problem as an individual. uh, Try to write down details about what exactly is the problem, right? So today we are trying to understand how do I structure my own problem and build a problem statement out of it. And even as a PM, you have feedback coming from multiple stakeholders and customers within your organization. A lot of the times feedback is also internal within the organization, from your leadership, from your ELT, and from people who work in the field and actually are talking to customers, and feedback from them, and they're along with their own interpretations and inputs, right? So as a PM, you always are listening to feedback and getting feedback from multiple sources, and it's your job then at the end of the day to figure out how do I actually present or write down a statement describing the whole problem, right? So it's not as easy as you think. So everyone has their own point of view and their own way of describing a problem, but as a PM you are responsible for delivery of this product, I mean, from the start till finish, right? Though you are not the actual one coding the feature, you are responsible for the inputs and the requirements defined to solve a particular problem. And it is very important to make sure that whatever the problem statement is defined correctly, such that when any stakeholder looks at, or a stakeholder involved with delivering the solution for the problem is onboarded, they are aware of what actually the problem is, they have background and context that will help them deliver the best output such that the problem can be resolved, right? So in a sense, a problem statement uh, is one of the building blocks when starting out to build a feature or a product or an enhancement to an existing product line, right? So it's very important to define this correct and to set off well at this phase. And for example, a good problem statement in essence provides focus and frames the problem in a very good way, right? So uh, you could talk to a customer who describes the problem in their own context and their own impact in some ways, but you have, as a user, have to hear from multiple perspectives and probably collate the information through your product discovery, from your research, talking to customers, and through these customer interviews, figuring out and framing the problem in a way that it can be applied or be understood by all stakeholders at different levels and at different experiences, right? So you have to focus, allow, for example, an end user or an end stakeholder looking at a problem statement have the ability to focus on what actually is the core issue at hand, instead of all the story and other line items they can get confused with, right? So try within your problem statements, have focus, frame the problem well. You can describe it around a persona, around a use case, or and around certain behavior, and help paint the picture of what exactly the problem is and how, when does the problem even actually arise, right? Try to inspire your team, right, on that as to, so we see this being a problem, and for us, uh, think of the impact that we can generate, right? So if it is a very large scale problem and will have, if you see as a PM a lot of potential on delivering value through this product feature, try to inspire your team as to on the amount of burden that they can let go of, or the amount of additional debt they'll have to, I mean, include by just solving for or this problem statement, right? So inspire your team through the details that you provide in the problem statement. Inform the acceptance criteria. So with every user story that a PM writes, uh, for the simpler and the smaller stories, you don't really you providing context helps, but it's not really, if you have, for example, 10 different things to look at, you will always prioritize on the most critical ones, and for the features that impact a lot of sections or areas of the platform. So for those sort of stories, you have to provide as much context as you can, provide the requirements and define them clearly, such that the room for interpretation is very less. What's written is what's available, sort of situation with all these updates. And provide an acceptance criteria, right? So for example, an acceptance criteria is usually in the format of providing a scenario first, and when X happens, then Y needs to occur and Z needs to also be updated. So it is a series of steps that need to be checked off or need to be true for you to eventually mark the feature as uh, actually being delivered and being marked done, right? So acceptance criteria helps you evaluate and helps you define the criteria for success of a particular feature or delivery of a particular feature, right? And even though you have requirements and all the details set, give your teams the freedom to make decisions, right? Give them, for example, give your engineering teams the freedom to design and architect the way they feel is the most scalable solution, right? A lot of the times, for example, what you might have envisioned might not really be the most convenient or the most easy way to deliver the enhancement, right? So if you allow your engineering and other teams to make decisions and talk through the decision, not, I mean, not leave and communicate well in the process, not really leave the other person out hanging and not really aware of the situation and the updates that have been happening. So collaborate, allow your teams to make decisions, talk to them on what is going on, and probably you might come to a consensus, right? As to, okay, let's build what you say is the better approach, right? Or if you have pushback, give the pushback and see if you can come to a middle ground and build the enhancement, right? So always healthy discussions are always encouraged, because at the end of the day, our goal as product managers is to empower our customers and build a better product every day, right? And iterate and improve on that. So always have discussions, empower your teams to make decisions, and allow them to take bets also, right? So a lot of the times within PM, when making decisions, a lot of decisions, most of them are gut decisions that you take. A lot of times you don't really have data to back and claim why you are doing X or Y, unless it's if you feel like it. I mean, a lot of times you will have to back it by data or some insight to begin with. But if you don't, as PMs, you often have to take bets and taking these bets on your team to take decisions and build and give them the freedom to make decisions, learn if things go wrong, and if things go great, always iterate and improve and go to the next big thing from there, right? uh, Even as a PM, when talking to customers, you have to capture the requirements, try to gather and extract as much information as you can, and distill it in a document from and explain it through the problem statement, right? And a lot of the times problem statements are crisp. They are they they talk to the point, are straight and sharp, deliver what they need to deliver, provide the focus to your stakeholders, and help paint a picture of why exactly the problem is. A lot of times with problem statements you can provide the background as to how and why this problem really is worth solving, and how it came to be in the first place. Then you can define like a crisp problem statement, define the goals that you're trying to achieve by solving this, what are the scopes, items in scope and items out of scope, so define those, provide a detailed requirement in a bulleted fashion with X, Y, Z, A, B, C, all of these items that need to be updated with the platform and everywhere it touches. As well, provide references for other tools, other platforms that are available that do a similar job, from that you have figured out from your research and talks with customers. Provide the acceptance criteria, and be as detailed as possible, right? So in bigger features that impact a lot of areas, the more details you can provide, the more the more text you can provide, the better it is. But not having a lot of text is not really the end goal. It's about the clarity and the background and the context that you can provide your teams with, so that they can tackle the problem, understand where the user is coming from and where you are coming from, for based on the solution that is proposed, and align the teams to deliver that value, right? Um, so that's essentially a way for you to look at framing these problem statements. A lot of the times problem statements have to begin, like we discussed in, I think, one of our earlier streams, probably day one or day two. We talked about the golden circle, right? The golden circle by Simon Sinek. So he talks about always looking at the why, looking at the what, looking at when, and then the how, and all these other things come up, right? So same applies to when writing problem statement. Explain the why behind the problem statement, try to explain. Then I think we also have a resource here, talk about what, talk about how, and then you can essentially on the how you can divide that into further segments on what needs to, how, for example, enhancement needs to be delivered and taken action upon on the front end side of things, back end side of things, design side of things, on the marketing and the GTM side of things as well, right? So always, even in a product spec or a document that you're writing explaining the problem at hand, start with the why, then go to the what, the how, and then these three elements, combine those as part of your template. And I think we also have a template here from Manas of, for example, a typical feature where we are trying to introduce emoji reactions on Twitter messages, right? So here is also a disclaimer or a statement about what and how he has structured the solution and the document, in essence, where he talks more, starts with the why, talks about the what, talks about when things needs to be delivered, and on the how side of things he has his own separate uh, document that he has linked that provide the how for each of the scope items, right? Or this for each of the segments for teams that they'll be delivering the feature for, or will be working on the feature, right? Back end, front end, design, QA, and other teams as well. So spend time in defining and in the problem statement as well, because the problem statement is in a sense the driver for the next steps that come along the way on the requirements, what needs to be built, how things needs to be architected and handled both by engineering, also by QA, how things need to be conveyed. So a lot of things distill from the problem statement. So having a crisp problem statement always helps, and helps provide clarity and a focus for your teams to then deliver the enhancement, right? So That is a problem statement. And how to write a problem statement, like we discussed, use the golden circle rule here as well. Be as explicit as possible, and you can have you can have also these steps as part of your problem statement and PRD when you're writing one for a specific feature. Put the problem in context, we discussed. Provide as much background, as much detail as possible to enable your teams to understand where you're coming from, where the customer is coming from, and why you need this to be delivered. For example, if it's on a tight timeline, and explain why this is on a tight timeline, because it has become a blocker for a customer, right? And they're essentially blocked from making any progress or extract value from the product. So having context here always helps within your problem statement. Explain the relevance of the problem. How often does this problem occur? How many users on a daily basis come across this problem? How much impact that can be delivered, and how the customer metrics on the customer success sides can be improved just by delivering this small enhancement, right? Put things into picture, put things why, uh, with details on the goals that you're trying to achieve with this, right? And if they are realistic, uh, everyone will obviously be aligned to deliver that. And if they are unrealistic, you will hear pushback, and that's a sign for you to improve the problem statement and details of the problem statement, right? And sometimes you learn and grow from there, right? So it's always taking it in a positive direction and making sense out of the decisions you make. Back up your claim. Uh, don't always be very stubborn, and be very specific on once you have thought of a solution. There have flexibility in also understanding, and for example, increasing or decreasing the scope, trying to approach it in a different way recommended by your engineering and other stakeholders part of the process. Always take their inputs, see what's best, take the right call, and go from there. So you have to back up your claim as to, for example, a feature needs to be delivered on a urgent basis. It needs to be delivered because X and Y. So you have to have reasons to back your claims, and why. For example, your task needs to be picked up over other users and other stories that are already in part of the pipeline and scheduled. So for that, you need to always back your claim and provide context and details as to why this needs to be prioritized over one. And we have given also an example here. If a problem has diminished sales in the past few weeks, showing these statistics immediately communicates the extent of the issue, right? So back it by data. The more data you have, the better, and the easier it is to claim why you have the decision to be needed to be taken on an urgent basis and delivered to the customer on an urgent basis, right? Propose a solution. Be as descriptive as possible, as detailed and as or detail oriented as possible. Try to avoid and to have any misinterpretations between your teams. Give them, even for the smallest task, provide a mock-up, or at least a rough mock-up for your low fidelity diagram. Can just be pen and paper, uh, but try to put and help your engineers visualize things that needed to be done, so that all the stakeholders are aligned, for example. And if you don't have a mock-up, and then you probably expected it to be shown a different way, you have something to go back and reference to. Yes, I asked for the button to be here, not somewhere else, but looks like we have not delivered it, so we need to match that. Because I've already, through your backup and claims and details of all the context, you will be able to eventually convince your user, right? Because a lot of the times the job of a PM is to convince and to communicate to all the different stakeholders, right? And proposing a solution always is talking to these stakeholders and convincing them that the specific feature is worth actually putting effort and time into for all the stakeholders. Explain the benefits, which is part of your proposing of the solution, and building the solution from there. So yeah, I think we also have a template where talk about the problem, use one sentence, be as crisp as possible, try to provide focus to the team such that all of them are aligned and understand the context behind it. Provide background, provide details, provide references, provide the relevance and why the problem really matters, and the objectives you're trying to achieve out of these, right? So the objectives, for example, can be to improve X feature or X metric, right? And the objectives are because you have committed this as part of your roadmap, and this also helps us get an upper hand over a competitor who is also in the same space, right? So, and explain the objectives of why we need to deliver, and what are the actual reasons of, for example, having a particular requirement as part of the product, right? As part of the requirements within the document of the problem statement. So yeah, this is about problem statements and how do you write these problem statements. So to summarize, be understand the problem first, have as much detail as you can gather from discovery, through research, through interviews, through conversations and talks from customers, and all the users that you work with on a daily basis. Always be like a sponge and absorb information, and when you need to really push back, and you really want to deliver, become a stone and always see for reasons and opportunities where you can push back, and align resources in the right direction, such that your item is prioritized over others based on the reasoning, right? And it has to be really impactful, and the claims have to be right and aligned. You just really can't come up with a vague excuse and vague reasoning for a specific feature to be delivered, because all the stakeholders also understand and they have their own goals and priorities to meet, right? So it's important for you to align all these resources, communicate well, provide as much context as possible, and build value and define the goals before even the development from engineering has begun. So yeah, and keep all these stakeholders happy. Not It's not easy all the time, but yeah, you as a PM have to be receptive for both positive and negative feedback, and if positive, it comes to you; if negative, it also comes to you, right? So understand, realize what you are building, take bets, take small bets, and iterate and improve your product, right? So this is about problem statements and how you can use these problem statements. I think the four kinds of problems are also discovered and detailed here by Manas, where he talks about there are four kinds of problem that prohibit a usage of a feature and a product. For example, there might be a discovery problem, right? That the user really does not understand what X feature is meant to do for their product, and to learn about that, you can measure through these mechanisms that are shared, right? If, for example, the other sort of problem is a use case problem, so the user has not learned what to use this feature for. You built a feature for a specific customer, and now you have made it available to the wider audience, but not really seen a lot of adoption. So in that case, it probably is a problem of use case, where X customer has the use case and is able to use the feature, but Y does not. So try to understand if there are other use cases, or if there is actually a use case that the customer is not optimizing through the feature that is available in the platform. Help and educate them as part of the process, right? And even for that, you have mechanisms, similar mechanisms to the awareness problem. Feature inferiority problems, right? The lower we get to the list, the harder the problems are to solve for. The feature inferiority problem is that your specific feature is inferior or does not have the amount of extensibility or the amount of customizations that your alternatives that the alternatives provide, right? So for that, how do you measure that? You can do multiple tests for that. A unit test, for example, get and try to get feedback from the support tickets that have been reported. Look at interviews, look at surveys, create surveys for a specific scenario, look at NPS scores and customer satisfaction scores, right? And the other one, which is, I mean, the hardest one to follow, is product lacking features, right? So customer has asked for a specific feature which is not really available, but now you as a PM have to define things from scratch and also make them scalable enough that such that it solves the existing customer problem but is also applicable to other customers and can also bring value to them, right? So for example, here we have described users would probably use the product and it has X features, but another competitor has X plus Y. And hence, for end user to judge, they will always look for features that solve that problem the easiest way possible, right? So in that case, you have to be very strategic in terms of what you spend your time and effort on, Do you really want to also have the same why feature that your competitor has, or put another spin to it and provide a different feature, right? So for that, the best way to do is using and talking to user customers, right? And have these interview sessions to discover and gain insights, get all the learnings, do your user research and product research and competitive research to come up with hypotheses, come up with potential plans of the problem statement. Uh, and once you understand the problem statement, look at, do we really need why, and if we need why, what's the best and the easiest way to achieve that, right? And if we don't, what are the best alternatives within our product line currently that can help solve the problem. So these are a few ways, and the hierarchy is also here. So always solve for discovery, because the feature is already there, just that the customer is not aware of that feature or is not educated enough to start using it, right? And nudge your user towards using the product more, educate them, and then, for example, making sure the product does not really suck is the harder problem. And then build why, right? Building the why feature that you don't really have. So always solve for discovery, because things are available to the customer. It's just a matter of trying to play around and explore the product features available. But building why is not really easy, because there are a lot of strings that you can pull and decisions that, or ways that you can go about solving for the build why problem. But yeah, these are typically four sort of categories that you can divide your product problems into and build products for, right? And we also have the two types of requirements, right? A product, uh, there are two ways to write this requirement document, like the way we talked previously, where we look at, follow the approach of the golden circle, explain the why, explain the what, and then the how. The when and the how later on. But yeah, the why piece for any problem is the core piece to get started. We learned in the five whys framework as well how important getting to the root cause of a problem is important to even start discovering things and start discovering details, and then look at options to solve for that problem. But the other way to do it, or the other way you could focus on the problem, is to look at first the result or the end outcome you are looking from this. What is the current way of doing it? What are the gaps in the current way, and how you can fix those? And what needs to be actually added in the current workflow to get to the desired outcome that you are trying to look for? And for that, if you need to start things from scratch, do that. And if not, fill the holes that are available, that are present, and then build a robust solution that can solve the problem, right? So part of the outcome, but yeah, this these are two specific ways. But a lot of times it's better to just start with the golden circle approach, right? Why? Ask why. The more questions you ask, the more answers you get, and the more insight you get, the better and the clearer the problem statement becomes for you to then tackle and see for solutions, right? A lot of times it's just brainstorming and looking at, iterating the problem and the scenario in your head to come up to a typical, to come up with solutions and approaches to solve for that problem. But yeah, this is another extension of the product spec we have shared and we have discussed on how you always have to, as PM 101, the thing is always ask why. Why do we really need this? If we really need this, okay, what do we need to do this? Do we just have to add X feature or X enhancement, or do we need to think of scratch? If scratch, why? Do Can we leverage something out of the box or something from external resources, or do we have to build it in house? So this is sort of the process that you can follow. And as PMs, you are always looking at problems, trying to figure out the right solution and to build the right solution for your customers, so that they get the most amount of value. So this is about problem statements in general, and how, I think it's one of the most important sessions we have had in the 30 days of PM series. But yeah, you have this problem statement, which is your starting ground when it comes to building features and building enhancements within your product. So yeah, I think that's about it when it comes to problem statements and how to define, write, and how to build a template that captures all the necessary details required to explain a problem statement and build the relevant solutions to the problem statements while keeping everyone aligned and focused on the goal, uh, and deliver the best product you possibly can to the customer. So yeah, that's been about problem statements. We'll join tomorrow and look at other new topics in the product management space. But yeah, see you soon. I'll see you in another video. Thank you.